So you will record.
Nice. Hello, I'm Łukasz Górnicki, Łysy z Nieborowic. I'd like to welcome you on another Core SIG meeting. I'm your today moderator, and Mateusz is so kind to help me out with writing notes. As usual, we'll start with the questions and feedback, but in case you're not on the list, I think I put all of you on the list of the attendees. In case you're not, please add yourself. The link to the agenda is in the chat window on Slack, in the description of the chat window. At least I hope so.
Yeah, I also send that on our Zoom chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So first questions and feedback. So first question, we already have one. Will the application connector module in Varkes be released as an NPM module? Application connector module. You mean Varkes in general? That's interesting. I actually didn't know it's not.
So at the minute, if I look at the Vox repository, it's a collection of learner modules, and so there's a mock server and an OData mock server, and then there's a Kyma mock as well. And the Kyma mock consumes basically it pulls it creates an instance of the app connector, and then it will create an instance of, say, the Open API mock. But if I just want to go and create my own Express server, I want to I kind of just want to npm install the application connector, without necessarily being bound to using something like Learner or Yarn Works.
Yeah. Let me quickly check. You can see my screen all the time.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. So as you can see now, so what I'm showing now is the repository under sub-organization where our guys created mocks of the some enterprise apps owned by SAP, so we can use them as well in Kyma. And as I can see, Varkes, it means that Varkes basically is on NPM if it's used in the dependencies, or you're missing some specific package on NPM.
Well, no, when okay, it's not under the Kyma project, it's under Vox.
No. So I'm also surprised why it's not Kyma, but Varkes. So I will for sure take it to Andras, who's the owner of Varkes. But yeah, that's how you should use it now, and I'll clarify with him why it's not under Kyma. But probably it's because it's very generic. It doesn't have to be under Kyma.
Okay, I found it now. I found what I need.
Okay, awesome.
Cool.
Good. I helped you. Awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I also will clarify with Andras, I'm also curious why it's not under Kyma project on NPM. Any other questions or feedback before we jump into our presentations? Okay, no questions. That's also good. Thank you. So first topic is Kyma 1.6 Munich release. That's was supposed to be presented by Ahmed, but yeah, I'm replacing him today. And there's not much to discuss if it comes to the details of the release. Unfortunately, we're facing quite big issues with producing the release. The last status I can share is that we are already over with testing the release candidate 2, and we are now creating release candidate 3 to test, to make sure that everything really works well, cherry picking some bug fixes.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
What happened to RC2? Because that seems to have disappeared off the releases page.
Oh, did it?
Well, I installed RC2 yesterday and was unable to find it today. I mean, the code might still be there, but
so right now we have RC2, and the previous one was just released by mistake. So yeah, it was yesterday. It was removed, and right now we have a official correct one, RC2, and I can already inform that probably we'll have RC3 for that release.
awesome.
Okay, then we should anyway look into the topic, because we should not remove those
Yeah.
even if they are not valid.
At least it should be probably announced on the Kyma
on the channel. Yeah, yeah. But
Yep.
yeah, good point, Ian. Can you, Mateusz, in the notes, can you mark that we?
Of course.
So I will have an action item to clarify that it should not happen in the future, because that's really confusing. Especially that we now also will try to make more transparent work on the releases, because now all the problems are probably visible only internally. So we'll make sure that on general we put more updates in next release. But yeah, the situation is now that RC3 is in progress, but we don't have any ETA really for when it's going to be ready. It's a shame, but yeah, keep fingers crossed that it's going to happen soon. For sure, we don't want to skip it. That's for sure. That's it from the 1.6 release point of view. And Mateusz, I will now stop sharing, and you can continue with your topic.
So yeah, let me take it from here. Just a second. I need to switch my context from taking notes to presentation. And it's not so okay. Sharing my screen. Okay, you should be able to see my presentation, at least the slide with Kyma features. Is correct?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, so basically, you probably know that we have in Kyma 3 pillars: application connector, serverless, and the last one, service management. And service management allows you to consume and manage third-party services, and is also a glue for the 2 first pillars. Basically, we have chosen the Kubernetes Service Catalog to provide such feature. For example, you can provision the MySQL service on the GCP side, and then bind this instance to your business application. And to implement that logic, Service Catalog extended Kubernetes with 6 new kinds. But the question is how? Basically, I need to tell you that Service Catalog was started almost 3 years ago. And at that time, you were able to extend Kubernetes only by creating your own aggregated API server. And just briefly, what it is. So when you're operating on the core resources, you are going through the main API server, and the manifests are stored in the main etcd. When it comes to extend that with the API server, then you need to create your own server and also have connection to your etcd storage, where your custom kinds will be stored. And basically, when someone wants to operate on your resources, he also going to the main API server. But in that case, the main API server only proxying that call to your application, and you need to hold and handle this action in your code. And it sounds okay, but we had a few problems with Service Catalog when it comes to maintain that application on our cluster in Kyma project, and also implement new features in that project. Why? I have a few reasons. First one, this approach requires you to write an API server from scratch, right? And maintaining its code. And when I'm saying maintain its code, I'm saying a lot of code, because you need to write storage connector and strategy for each kind. So it's a lot of boilerplate. When you have a lot of code, it's really problematic to maintain that. The second reason is that you're writing API server from scratch, and you also owning some core logic, like incrementing generation fields. And this is also problematic because you're duplicating core logic and it's easy to introduce bugs and it's also hard to follow best practices. Next one is a problem when you want to be in sync with Kubernetes version because you need to bump your dependencies. And there are not only changes in vendor files, but also in your files because you need to sometimes adjust your interfaces. So it's also a problem because of a lot of manual changes. Next one, I love that one because not always everyone remember about it, but in open source project, the people come and go or just go. And in case of API Service Catalog, the guys who started API server are not there anymore. And this the problem is for us when we wanted to provide some features or do some bug fixings. We have problem with doing that with in a correct way because the best practices were not well documented. So it's really nice to have architecture which allows you to do that only in one way. And the last from my list, probably the most important, is that you are requiring the connection to the etcd storage. And in case of Kyma, we are running our project on managed Kubernetes clusters, so we are not able to connect to the main etcd. Instead of that, we need to create our own one. So because of that, we need to take care of backups, upgrades, and so on and so forth. What's more, there's also an issue when etcd is down, then API server is also down. Because of that, Kubernetes and all service catalog resources disappear. So what you can do is to delete namespace where those resources were created. When API server is back, then you have resources in namespace which does not exist anymore. And it caused a lot of problems, and we, of course, had all of them in our platform. So it's owning etcd connection is also not a good idea. Because of that, we discovered that we have a new kid on the block, which is CRDs. And CRD is already in GA stage. So this means it's a global available. And what we did, we just in Service Catalog replaced the API server with the custom resource definition. Thanks to that, it's really a child's play when it comes to extended service Kubernetes, because your manifest will live on the main etcd storage, and your request will go through the main API server. Thanks to that, you are not owning additional logic. What I need to add is that we focus on the CRUD operation, but with API server, you can also intercept your requests before they will be stored in etcd. For example, apply some defaults or add additional information. With the CRDs, you are going through the main API server and the data is stored in the main etcd. But basically what you can do is to reuse the idea behind the mutation admission webhooks. Thanks to that, you can register your webhooks and mutate, so change the spec before it will be saved in main etcd. What's more, you can use schema validation or dynamics validation. This is quite similar to the mutation webhooks because you will receive the payload, you can validate that and respond to server it's correct or not. And what we did, we just collect all custom API server features and we substituted them with the CRD approach. And what is most important is that new architecture is already in place. So right now we have a new service catalog released with the CRD implementation. Right now we have a beta 1 release. All those things were powered by Kyma developers. And what is more important is that we'll use that thing in current release, upcoming release 1.6. Because we have a new version, now it's time to migrate our clients. And our goal was to do that with one-click upgrade. Because of that, we reuse the Helm upgrade concept. So what you can just do is to execute Helm upgrade command. Of course, for you as a Kyma user, we even automated that process. So you just upgrade your Kyma cluster and we're doing all those things for you. Things to take away is that right now the service catalog in Kyma is more stable because we are reusing the native Kubernetes support for extending Kubernetes. The installation time was reduced because we are not installing the etcd cluster, and also we are not deploying the API server. So thanks to that, it's around 30 seconds. Next one is we reduce the memory, of course, because we are not owning the etcd storage anymore. We only deploying the controller and webhooks. Thanks to that, we reduce quite a lot of memory. And the same thing is for CPU consumption. And that's it from my side. But if you have any questions, you can ask.
Okay. I guess no more questions. And
thank you very much.
You already know I'm impressed how much we're gonna save on resources.
Yeah, that's true.
You stopped recording. Let me. Or actually, I think we have another presenter, so I will not display the agenda again, but we will simply jump to Krzysiek, who will show the new logging UI that will be part of the 1.6 release.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, welcome everybody. With upcoming release 1.6, the UI team, we have reworked the log UI in Kyma. So I would like to show it to you and ask for any feedback, and ask you if you would see any additional follow-up features for the log UI. So the location for that navigation node didn't change. It's under diagnostic category. You will find logs. And previously it was quite complex. Now we decided to simplify it really drastically, and to have some sort of facet search-like experience. So from all of the logs, the logs are indexed in the Loki component, and they are using all logs have their labels, so you can further drill down into logs that are interesting for you using those log labels. So just exactly like you're searching for some products on the shop, you can navigate really by adding more filters. So for example, I'm interested in the logs from a given namespace. Then I can select the namespace category and see all the namespaces that are available in my runtime. So let's take Kyma system. Now I'm seeing all the logs coming from Kyma system. That's probably a nice bird eye view, but it's probably too much. Let me reduce the results limit. You can find that in the advanced settings, which is hidden by default. And you can further on narrow down your search results using this label selectors. So for example, I'm interested in the asset store media service. So now I'll be I'm viewing a live logs from a given component asset metadata service from the namespace Kyma system. And you can see there are some documents being processed. So it's automatically refreshed. You can decide to stop it, to pause the auto refresh, and take a moment to analyze the given time frame, the given logs. You can use this drop down here to further define the time constraints. As you can see, they are quite fixed at the moment. Just get me logs from last minute up to last hour. And what will come in the future is like a precise time picker, so that you could focus on logs from a very specific time period. That's probably most wanted at the moment here. We're going to add that next. And you can, of course, also change the log order. Yeah, so this is, you can further search the logs, the given logs results by a text search. So you can, if you know what you're looking for, then you can really you can really drill down that further to, no, it's probably, okay. Okay, because it's not, I have posted the polling of the logs, therefore there's no reaction. Okay, let's play the tape again and see if there are any logs with search with text error. No, okay, that's good. So there are no errors in the asset store. So it could be quite handy if you would like to see for any problems in a given namespace or a given container. So this is the, let's say, general purpose log micro frontend. You can use the same log UI in a given context. So let's say that, yeah, let's inspect the very same container, the asset store media service, but yeah, let's jump into the Kyma system first and to the pods. Asset store media service. This is the one. So previously I have shown you how to really use the log labels on the general purpose log UI. Now you can, I will show you how to show the logs of that specific pod. And there is an action menu on the list entry here, and I can choose to show the logs from the spot. And now I don't need to really select anything because I'm already in the context of the spot, and I can use the same action operations here, like pause and play the auto refresh, select the time frame, and also use the text-based search. Okay, that's the second place where you can use the log UI. There's a third place, and it's could be also quite useful. It's in the context of a Lambda. So for the purpose of this demo, I have prepared a Lambda function that is processing orders. It's quite simple. It takes an input, a order data, and it's just, if the format of the event is correct, then it's adding a processed flag to true, and then returning that order. And if the format is wrong, then it just returns -1 and logs the error. In the if there's everything is fine, that it's also logging the information that order is being processed. So if I have such a Lambda, then I can go ahead and test it, and you see the logs panel appeared automatically. You can of course decide to close it if you want, but it's quite handy when testing the Lambdas. So I can select an order, some order related events that are available in my namespace, and send a sample payload to the Lambda. I can see the response, and as you can see immediately, I can also see the log from the Lambda. So in this particular view, when you as a Lambda developer, you are really validating if the Lambda code is fine, and you want to really test some corner cases, then it will be quite handy. You can see the logs are automatically appearing in the split view mode here. So those are the changes around the log UI, which we were working on for the 1.6. Do you have any questions? Do you have any feedback? Would you see some follow-up features?
How about adding a link to logs in the deployment view?
Yes. Absolutely.
I used it today, and
yeah, pods are no special, right? Yeah, that's something that we need to do. Probably there's also at the moment no way to really see jobs, for example, right? And there's also could be really handy to see the logs of a job. We really need to think how we want to present that in console. Maybe even combine all that lists into one view with where you can select the type of the entity which you would like to inspect, and then for all of those who produce logs also have a show log menu item and where you can see the logs. Yeah, absolutely.
Can you
Yeah.
export the logs?
Excuse me, could you repeat, Ian?
Can you export the logs in any way?
Export the logs? Not now. Yeah. That would be as well a killer feature. Yeah. So from that view, right? Actually, whenever you are throwing the logs on the screen, there should be, you would see a button to export them to a file.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, if I've got multiple, like my Kyma service might not be the only thing in my larger system, so I might be using something like Datadog or whatever. So I might want to just take a snapshot of the logs, or I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's just useful to be able to export the logs.
All right, cool. Thanks for that feedback. We'll take a note and bring it to the team. Any other questions or feedback?
Okay, I guess no more questions.
I have another one actually.
Okay.
Can I set up any watchers, or like, so for instance, if, like, obviously there's lots of logs coming through. In my Lambda, I might be having info logs or debug logs or whatever. Is there a way for me to set up watchers or anything on errors, so I get notified, or they get prioritized or highlighted differently or something? You know.
So you would see them simply highlighted, the error logs somehow, or the log levels.
I think it's more like if I've got X number of lambdas, and then an error log appears in one of those. I'm not constantly going to have all of these views open.
Yeah, naturally, yeah.
So is there a nice clean way for me to be notified of errors? Like, again, if I'm using like Snapdrive or Datadog or something, then I could sort of set up watchers, if you like, for error states. Is that something that's in here or in the plan? Or?
Not really yet, but this probably would require some also some investigation on the let's say logging backing system, right? To identify such log entries with errors and to think about some kind of notification mechanism. But, that's something to consider. We have to think about it.
Krzysiek, in the past, didn't we? I think I saw somewhere discussion about having a kind of notification center in the console that
yes,
those errors exactly like
absolutely
failing or deployments, like, of course, different kind of information somehow classified but visible in one view.
Yes, so what you have seen probably is the namespace details view, which we plan to deliver, where you would see all the workload statuses in your given namespace, saying which deployments are healthy or the percentage of healthy deployments, jobs, etc. And we would see here a component showing all the logs that are going to the standard error stream here. And that will be such place. So you would not need to have all those views open. So we could, we are planning to deliver something like that. So like a dashboard view for a namespace, but not necessarily like a notifications, right? Like an, I don't know, would you see, did you think something like an email notifications or SMS or?
Don't know. I don't know. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's baby steps, right? Having a holistic view of it is a great place to start, and at some point in the future, depending on what people actually need.
Yeah.
It may be any of the above. It may even just be like a notification bell in the top menu or something, you know.
Yeah, so I think this would serve the purpose of having a holistic view, and we'll, like you said, with baby steps, we'll try to investigate what is the next step to make it easier to investigate any potential problems in a namespace. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Krzysiek. Thanks to others for questions. Next item on the agenda is presentation from another bold guy. This time it's Kuba, Jakub, Kabza.
Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's perfect. Let me share my screen. Wait. Yeah, sure. All right. Perfect. Okay, do you see API Gateway version 2?
I can see terminal.
Okay, terminal. That's all right. It should be fine, I guess. Hello guys. Again, it's very nice to have you here for this short demo of API Gateway Controller, which is essentially a Kubernetes controller that allows you to expose and secure applications and lambdas using instances of the API rule custom resource. Yes, the controller interacts with other environment, meaning Hydra OAuth2 server and the Oathkeeper identity and access proxy, both of which have been part of Kyma for some time now. So I guess some of you might be familiar with them. Of course, you can visit ori.sh for some more details, but let me just cut straight to the point. There is this HTTP bin service residing in Goat test namespace. Let's see if I can secure it with OAuth2 token. Of course, securing with things with JWT token is possible as well, but let's just focus on this particular method here. For your information, prior to this demonstration, I registered an OAuth2 client using another great product from our portfolio, which is HydraMeister. You can learn something more about the controller itself, I mean the other controller, HydraMeister, and the custom resource it operates on. You can just visit our documentation at kymaproject.io. I guess it's the security tab. So usually when I want to expose a service, I create a virtual service like the one you see here. Of course, I'm able to call the upstream service through the host exposed here, but the service is not secured. Let's see if this is indeed the case here. So yeah, I'm able to call headers, I'm able to call user agent. Yeah, that works like charm. Perfect. But again, the service is not secured. Let's find out if I'm able to secure it. This is the part where API Gateway comes into play, since it allows both to expose and secure services by preparing just one resource. So yeah, let's see it in action. We need an instance of the API rule custom resource, like the one here. As you can see, I secure the entire service by specifying the asterisk here in path. I make sure it is available at http bin.domain. It's our RC2 cluster in this case here. Yeah, I secure it with OAuth2 introspection token that should be issued with a with the scope read here, and basically that's it. It is now up to the API gateway controller to create corresponding virtual services. I mean, one virtual service, and provide secure routing using Oathkeeper access rules. Again, Oathkeeper is a part of our environment we have implemented in Kyma. So yeah, let's see if we are still able to call the headers endpoint. We are not, and there is no wonder we are not. We're missing a token issued by Hydra, so let's simply ask for it. Again, I have created an auth to client prior to this presentation. So what I'm doing is basically calling Hydra for a token with scope read. There it is. Let me just export it as an environment variable. Perfect. So now I guess if I include the token in my request, I can, I should be able to call the upstream service. And yeah, that's the case. Let's just try with another endpoint. Let's say user agent. Perfect. Okay, guys, I have my service secured, but on second thoughts, I decide not to protect the entire service. Instead, I choose to secure just one path. Let's have a look here. Say headers in this case, and make sure the remaining endpoints here are accessible from outside the cluster without any additional mean of authentication, authorization, etc. Meaning I do not have to include the header, the authorization header in my request. So yeah, I've just updated the resource. Let's see where it takes us. I need to make sure the setup is exactly what I'm looking for. So let me call header the headers endpoint one more time with no token. Okay, the call fails as expected. Now let me try another call with the token this time, and yeah, we're through. And let's just check one more thing. We should be able to call an unsecured endpoint, say user agent, from outside the cluster without any additional means of authorization, and that's it. We are able to do so, which concludes my presentation. It was very nice to have you here, guys. Now it's time for some questions, which I hope you never ask, but
I have one, but let's wait for the audience. Anyone else has questions? Okay. The name of the resource API rule.
yeah.
I mean, is it like the final? Because in the docs you have API gateway and API gateway v2, which is what you're showing, and the old custom resource is called API. And now, as far as I remember, by creating the API resource, underlying controller was also creating virtual service. So under not intermediate, the end goal is that API custom resource will stop. We're going to remove it, or
I mean, the name of the custom resource could potentially be subject to further changes. I mean, we're not really sure at this time how is it going to look like, what it is going to look like. Yeah. I mean, we decided to go with API rules so that there is this distinction between between the custom resource we used in the past, but we haven't decided yet on the final resource type. Okay.
Okay, cool. And because Krzysiek is on the call, that's also going to be supported in the UI, of course, long term.
Sure. I think we're working on it as we speak. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, guys. If
More
there are no more questions, then thank you very much. Yep, back to you, Mateusz. Or back to you, Łukasz, sorry.
No worries. Thanks a lot for showing the demo. Are there any final questions, feedback before we end the meeting? Because next time we're going to have an opportunity to ask. It's like in 2 weeks again. Okay, so again, thanks a lot for joining the recording. I'm doing the recording, so probably late evening it's going to be on YouTube with the timeline to every section of the presentation, and we're going to share it on Slack and Twitter. Thanks a lot again. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.